Today I wanted to talk about the fetishization that white men have for black women. So many swirlers are like curious to date interracially and put white guys on a pedestal, but some of them really just don't know what it's like being around some of these guys. You'll find so many white guys on social media, like, Match or Twitter, Plenty of Fish online or something like that. And they will send you a message saying, like, hey, I've never been with a black girl for the first time. Want to meet up? And when a guy says this to you, run. Because, this isn't a compliment. You don't want to be his experiment. That's just not the way you should properly approach a girl, regardless of race. It's like this race thing is it's such a big deal to him, and he's letting you know. You'll find like some white guys that say, they haven't like grew up around a lot of black people, and so they're curious to be with the black girl for the first time. That doesn't make it any better when they say that. I mean, you mean to tell me like no black people even online, and you're just wanting to be with the black girl for the first time? It's just a red flag. And I have so many personal experiences being with white guys, and also I work in the sex industry and I know how they are and what they say. One of the white guys that I dated, he would always mention to me about his Asian girlfriends, his ex-Asian girlfriends, I should say. And he would always say to me, Asian girls are my preference, but I still like you. That's not a compliment. It makes you feel like you're second best. It makes you feel like he's settling, and no one should settle for anyone. No one should settle for one another, because best believe that when this guy's preference comes into his life, he meets her, he's going to leave you. He's not going to stay with you. And you have to wonder to yourself, what is he looking to get out of this relationship? Always ask a guy what his expectations are. Is he open to having kids? Because a lot of these white guys they'll date you, but they'll be uncomfortable with the fact of having black kids or getting married or worrying about what their parents or friends might say. I'm talking about guys that are in their 20s, 30s, or older. They speak this way. It's like, they don't want to be judged for having a black girlfriend or black kids. And the worst thing you want to do is have kids with this guy. Your kids are going to end up hating themselves because your white husband doesn't accept them. He's bullying them, and the kids are being made fun of at school. You both don't want to put yourself in that kind of situation. Make sure that you totally get to know this guy before you sleep with him, before you commit yourself to him, because you're just going to go into this relationship with a bunch of Prince Charming expectations, and he's going to be just like a guy in a movie and so sweet. I say so many black girls on Tumblr, on Twitter, and YouTube put white guys in interracial relationships on a pedestal and fantasize about them being themselves. I'm telling you, girls, that this stuff is not what it appears like. We don't know what these girls' relationship are when the camera comes off, and we don't see them day to day. You don't know how their relationships are. These interracial couples on YouTube are making a lot of money based on the fact of being taboo. And a lot of people are getting on board with this and creating vlogs with one another because they're trying to get a quick buck. That's just the reality. You just don't know what's going on. Just get to know the guy before you get to meet him. The other white boyfriend I've had, and I'm mentioning particularly the bad experiences, just to let this, be known to some swirlers that it's not all positive when you date interracially. It's not all positive. Anyway, what I was going to say was the other experience I had with a guy, he blatantly mentioned to me that he had a preference for blonde white women. He's never dated a black girl, and he thinks that they're hot, but he's always found white women more attractive. And he would, whenever we're out in public, he would go out his way to mention to me how beautiful he thinks some girl looks. Or on Facebook and like all her pictures. Do you want to be with a guy that's like that? You always have to compare yourself and think when you wake up in the morning and you're laying next to bed to him, is he fantasizing about you? Does he want you? It's just really depressing to think about that, and you don't know how this guy feels about you. Um, the other thing I wanted to mention is that being in the sex industry, so many of these guys, they have a fetish for role playing, like explicitly mentioning each other's, our races. Like he'll say, "Oh, I love your black skin. Yeah, I love that black ass." Hell, you don't even have to be having sex with the fucking white guy for him to say this. They say this shit in emails too. There's this Tumblr page. If you Google it, it says something like the type of creepy messages we get from white men, or something like along those lines. If you Google it, I'm sure it will pop up. But basically, um, black women, Asian women, other races of women, exposing these guys with the kind of messages that they post. And these guys found nothing wrong with them creepily like talking about how they want to be with a woman of color. And it's just so weird. Because when I think about a guy I like, I'm not sitting here thinking about his race. That's a hot white guy. I don't need to say that. I'm just saying it's a hot guy. Why does he have to be a hot white guy or a hot black girl or something like that? I don't understand. But anyway, back to my job. I work on a phone sex line, I do webcam shows, I do porn, and these guys, a lot of them have like slave fantasies and rape fantasies, and I know a lot of women don't want to hear this. This is what they don't want to hear. They want to believe that it's totally something different. But this is not the truth. This is the reality of what's going on. I'm not saying all guys are like this, but 95% of the customers that I have are mentioning my race in some way or another for me performing my services. It's just what it is. And it makes me wonder to myself, say if I wasn't in this profession and I just was dating white guys and I had no clue that these are their fantasies. You have to think to yourself, if you're like, just wanting to date a guy like that, and you don't know what he's thinking or what he'll like to try to do with you sexually. Can you imagine not having a clue about any of this stuff, being in his mind about wanting to try with you until one day you're having sex and he calls you the N-word? You don't know how many guys are into this. You don't know. That's why I'm saying you need to really, really, really get to know the guy before you date him. I mean, become in a serious relationship with him or marry him. Don't date a guy that's going to fetishize you. Don't make a guy feel like you're second best, because you're just going to be his little experiment or his little fuck toy, and then he's going to go right back to his white women and act like you never existed. It happened to me. I was a girl that loved white guys. I've only ever wanted a white guy. And I'm seeing that it's not as perfect as what you think it seems like on TV or, by the media. It's not. So many women put these guys on a pedestal and they're not worth it. You need to judge all men the same. All men are out for sex. And just be selective about who you choose to be with. Avoid the heartache. I'm going to end this video here, but I'm going to be making a lot more. And I'll probably have my next video up tomorrow. I'll see you guys.